Okay, this one might be a bit of a sleeper case. It is actually officially released now without much fanfare, and maybe there should be because I think this is an excellent, it is an affordable MFF mATX case. Welcome to Machines More. On this channel, I cover a variety of tech topics, including PC building and PC cases. Today, we are talking about a new micro ATX chassis from Thermaltake. I covered this one at CES earlier in the year when Thermaltake was also showing a mid-tower TR200, and both of these new releases follow in the aesthetic of the TR100, the small form factor case that was launched last year. So I felt this one was kind of a quiet launch because even though I covered it at CES, later on when I remembered to, I followed up with Thermaltake and said, hey, you know, what's going on with this case? And they said, yeah, it's actually launched now and you can just release the review whenever. So, you know, I'm like, oh, okay. It kind of felt a little bit quiet, but they did send me this review unit to work with and share the feedback with you. A big thanks to them. But they aren't paying me to tell you about this case, though. And if you are a friend of the channel, you know I share my genuine opinions in a fair and well-researched manner. If you're new to this channel, and if you enjoy content like this, please make sure you are subbed with that bell turned on for notifications. To be frank, things have been a bit slow in the PC building subject area lately. So every sub, every like helps to keep the channel going and growing for that YouTube algorithm. And really big thanks here. All right, TR200, the one I have here is black with this front wood trim. You can also get it without wood trim and in white. The case measured in at 494 millimeters long, 220 millimeters wide, and 364 millimeters height with the feet. And that's roughly 340 without feet. And that works out to be a smidge under 40 liters with feet and 37 liters without. Technically, it's medium form factor in the colloquial sense, albeit on the very large end. mATX cases I was compared to here, Lianli A3 mATX is smaller in every dimension and 26.3 liters without feet. ASUS's AP201 is smaller in every dimension and it comes in at 33 liters. 45.5 liter AP202 from ASUS is taller and wider, but the TR200 is actually longer. Same with the 44 liter MF400 from Cooler Master, which I am reviewing. It's also taller and wider, but not as long as this one. Now, there's disparity there in those cases for volume, but if you're looking for an mATX case, you might be cross-dropping those because those are, you know, the mATX board is the biggest board you can fit in those cases. The case is mainly steel. The side panels are toolless. They're magnetic, just like the TR100. Super enjoyable to work with. They're just really easy to pop on and off. They are selectively vented also. The area that's adjacent to the radiator, it's closed off, and that will better force the makeup air into the main part of the chassis from the side panel and also the bottom. Behind the motherboard side of the case, there's a generous cable management area here, which is going to be where the extra width versus, say, a Lianli A3 mATX is going. There is space for two 2.5-inch drives or a 3.5-inch drive back here also. And then at the bottom of the main section of the case, you can do another 3.5-inch drive there. Realistically, there's a lot of space at the bottom to improvise. So their official max GPU length is 365 millimeters, which seems woeful for a case that is this long. It's almost 500 millimeters long. So just to clarify, that is assuming you have an ATX power supply mounted in a arrangement that blocks off the card. So this one is a 150 millimeter tall ATX. It's mounted in the highest spot that the case will allow. And two ways you might get more GPU length. One is to not use an ATX power supply. Use an SFX power supply, which won't physically overlap with a card in slot 1, or even though an SFXL will overlap, it's not as thick as an ATX supply, so you will get a bit more room there. Or you can go with a board that has its primary slot 1 slot lower in slot 2, plus use SFXL or SFX. And if you do that, just keep in mind there will still be cables in the mix there, but the absolute max at the end of the case is right around 453 millimeters. So for your bigger and longer cards, there is a thoughtful built-in GPU foot at the back here that will prop the card up. It's like a built-in anti-sag bracket. Mesh front panel here. This wood version has a few strips of wood here and that pops out for the PSU install if you need, or you can just leave this in place and try to install the power supply without removing the cage if you're able to just access from the inside. The front panel IO has 2 USB-A, 1 USB-C front panel audio, and you have a power button and the reset button underneath that. So TR200 has a max of 5 slots and supports up to 360mm or 3 120mm fans at the top, and you can also do 280 or 2x140. Back of the case also has a spot for a single 120mm fan, and it comes with one. That's the only fan the case comes with, and it's a simple 3-pin DC fan. I personally would have, swapped it out for something nicer, but I did do my testing with it since it comes with it, and it works okay. So I popped up the front panel. The power supply does mount to the front. The cage is designed for ATX, and you do need the internal extension cable that routes to the AC port at the back. The cage has standoffs that hook into these designated keyhole slots, and you can drop it one position lower than how I've set up here. You just unscrew the 4 screws that secure it and then pop the cage off for that. In the highest position, you have about 75mm of rad fan height before you hit the power plug here, and you don't have to worry about that until you're working with 45mm fans plus 30mm thick fans, for example. So here, in my example, you hit the tall ram first before you will have to worry about this. So, those are considerations if you are doing big rad plus thick fans. And if you don't liquid cool, you have plenty of heat sink height up to 175mm, and that should cover big tower coolers to your heart's desire. There's also this big cutout at the front for a 5.25-inch drive bay if you want. Just keep in mind that that will significantly affect your radiator choice. A bigger tower cooler would be more reasonable at that point if you have to go with, say, a 120 or 140mm rad as your other option. You can also use the space for Thermaltake's 6-inch LCD display if you want, and the case does come with this for those purposes. And the top and bottom panels do pop off easily with a thumb screw release, and you can place up to 3 120mm fans at the bottom, provided that you have space underneath your GPU and underneath your power supply. The case does have dust management, integrated dust filters at the top. They're magnetic at the top and bottom, and they're clipped into the side panels and then the front panel as well. It's very convenient. Okay, building the case is a great experience. I've built up the Lanley A3 many times, and this one's actually much better because of the cable management area. It never feels cramped. There's lots of cutouts to run cables, and everything seems to come out at the right spot. And you get the impression that they weren't chasing the smallest volume possible as much as making this accessible for a wide variety of users and skill levels. Talk about the test kit real quick. It's the B860M mortar Wi-Fi, the mATX board from MSI. I have an Ultra 9 285K that's cooled with a Be Quiet Light Loop 360. It's the C850 gold, 80 plus gold power supplies from NZXT. ASUS 5080 Prime GPU, and also threw in a 5060 Ti Prime just to get an apples to apples comparison against the A3, because I have tested that with almost the exact same setup before in that case. So, and at the bottom here is a 240mm Sicko Float Edge unit to help the GPU. My airflow configuration was top exhaust for the radiator. The 120mm fan by default is exhausting at the back, and I think that's correct. And that's going to encourage makeup air to come in through these side panels and the bottom. And I'm reinforcing this bottom intake with intake fans at the bottom. Power supply has the intake fan facing out, the intaking through the mesh panel. And when that fan is spinning, it's better to have it take the cooler air in from the outside versus recycling case air. And I think that would be a very reasonable way for users to set the airflow up, just like I have. Thermal performance is excellent. I had fan speeds completely matching the setup that I tested in the Lanley A3. The heavy CPU render thermals that you see here, slightly better. This is a very power hungry CPU, and these temps are excellent. 1440p gaming with a 5080, that is at roughly 250 watts. That consumption depends ultimately on your title, but just a reference point, even up to 350 to 360 watts max power in 5080, I don't think you're having any limitations in this case, especially if you have a bigger GPU cooler. There's certainly space to take advantage of that. versus the A3 with the 5060 Ti, very similar performance. Here, the CPU temps are actually a bit better, but realistic in this scenario. The difference in CPU temps, that's not particularly meaningful. It just means that you can dial down your fans a little bit with all else being equal. Thermally, the case is excellent. Acoustically, it's fairly transparent, so that's just worth noting. You may be used to a tempered glass panel that muffles some sound. This case doesn't have one. There's a transparent front panel as well. Likes, I think it's a great package all around, even though the material quality is very much middle of the road. The alignment was quite good and tolerances didn't seem off. There weren't any proud panels or misalignments, and that's good. The material choice does help the case start at $80 US, down the wood version at $90, and I think that's fairly affordable. It's a little more than the A3, but it's not a big difference. Now, I don't know that I particularly care for the dark wood trim at the front. It's a little bit of an odd combo to me. Personally, I like the white version with the light wood, but that's just my taste. It's not super compact, but this case is very capable, and cable management is just absolutely wonderful with this one. You can build it up so very clean, and the side panels, I just really like the way they've done the magnetic, and they're so easy to take on and off. A few areas that I think this could improve on. So really wish the front power supply had more flexibility for the position. There's only 2 positions and you can't actually place it higher, even though there's room for it. And I think that's due to there being the consideration for the access point with the 5.25 inch space there. Say a user is just doing top fans though, I really wish they could get this as high as possible and then free up space for all the GPU length that you want, or cable management, whatever, right? Another thing is, so while the cutouts are nice, you'll usually see rubber grommets equipped with this type of setup for the cable slots. And I get it, you don't see into this case with the mesh side panel, but I think a tempered glass panel could definitely be an accessory that gets added or offered as an option later on. And that might be a cost thing to take away those rubber grommets, but I think that would be nice. And finally, I think it might be nice to have a side bracket or rad panel as an optional accessory. And I also don't know that most users need it, which is why there probably isn't one, but it could be useful. And it's just another option for your radiator or fan mounting locations. And that is an area where the A3 mATX beats this, because it does come with one. Overall, though, I think this case is just so complete, and it's just not going to get nearly as much attention as it deserves, as is common for mATX cases. But I think this could actually cover like most use cases out there. It's beginner friendly and there's a lot of capability here, but it's still compact enough so that you can focus and direct your airflow. And I really hope this case makes some noise, and not literal noise, but you know what I mean. So that's going to do it for this one. I do have a build guide coming up. Make sure you check out the links down below. And hey, big thanks for watching today.